Something's breaking in America, and it's not just the economy. It's your ability to survive inside it. Right now, 1 in 3 workers can't afford a $500 emergency, even with a full-time job. Over 1 million layoffs were announced in just the first 10 months of 2025, the highest outside a recession since 2009. Job openings are down 25% year over year, while corporate profits just hit an all-time high. And despite what the headlines say, real unemployment may be closer to 10% when you count everyone who's been quietly pushed out, forgotten, or forced into gig work. This is not a cooling labor market. This is a slow-motion unraveling of the American work contract. And if you're not watching closely, you're next. Today, we're not looking at the job market through the lens of Washington or Wall Street. We're looking at it from where you actually live, your paycheck, your rent, your reality. Because the system says it's fine. But the truth, it's already cracking beneath your feet. 10. Fewer Americans are quitting. And that's a bad sign, not a good one. You've probably heard it by now. Quitting is down. The Great Resignation is over. The media is treating it like a sign of stabilization. But let's pause for a moment. Because what's actually happening underneath that statistic is not some return to normalcy. It's fear. Deep, widespread fear. The number of Americans voluntarily quitting their jobs has dropped to its lowest level since 2020. At first glance, that sounds like workers are more content, maybe even loyal. But let's be honest. People don't stop quitting because they're suddenly happy with their pay and their boss. They stop quitting when they feel trapped, when they know there's nothing better waiting on the other side. According to the latest JOLTS report, the quit rate has fallen to just 2.2%, down from its 2022 high of 3%. That's a massive shift. It means over 800,000 fewer workers are leaving voluntarily every month compared to 2 years ago. And that is not because jobs got magically better. It's because the power balance has flipped. Employers know it. They're offering fewer perks, pulling back on remote work, and getting pickier with who they hire. Workers know it too. They're holding on tighter. Even when the hours are long, the shifts get cut, or the roles shrink in responsibility. When people stay in bad jobs, that's not a sign of confidence. It's a sign the ladder is breaking. For decades, upward mobility in America depended on movement, switching companies to get a raise, shifting roles to build skills. But when quitting slows, so does that momentum. The opportunity cost of staying goes up. And the sad reality is that many Americans right now aren't staying because they want to. They're staying because they're stuck. That's not a healthy labor market. That's a silent warning bell. 9. Corporate America is quietly freezing hiring, but you won't hear about it on the news. Look past the layoffs. That's not where the real story is. The bigger, quieter shift is happening behind closed doors in HR departments, in hiring meetings, in executive strategy sessions. It's the stealth hiring freeze. And it's spreading. Across dozens of industries, companies aren't cutting thousands of jobs in one dramatic move. They're just not hiring. Or at least, not hiring like they used to. In Q3 of 2025, the number of job openings fell to its lowest point since the lockdown era, dipping below 8.6 million according to the BLS. That's still a big number, right? But here's what no one tells you. Half of those postings are for roles that are already paused, under review, or won't be filled until 2026 if ever. LinkedIn's internal data shows a 21% drop in actual recruiter activity year over year. That means fewer cold calls, fewer screenings, fewer interviews. Companies are keeping listings active for optics, or in case the market swings back, but they're not moving. And that's where the job market gets slippery. To the average worker scrolling through job boards, it looks like opportunity is out there. But once they apply, silence, delays, withdrawn roles. Or worse, they get an offer only to have it rescinded a week later. Tech companies, media outlets, logistics firms, they're all doing it. Freezing roles quietly, restructuring teams, and pausing growth plans. It doesn't show up in the unemployment rate, and it won't grab headlines like a massive layoff does. But the result is the same: less mobility, more stagnation, and a workforce trapped in waiting mode. This is how a downturn begins in the shadows. Not with a bang, but with a hiring freeze that no one wants to admit is already here. 8. The rise of ghost jobs is flooding the market with false hope. Here's something the job boards won't tell you. A growing number of the roles you're applying to don't actually exist. And no, that's not a metaphor. They are literally fake listings. Welcome to the era of ghost jobs. According to a 2025 survey by Clarify Capital, 68% of hiring managers admitted they've posted job openings that they had no intention of filling in the near future. Some do it to keep a pipeline of resumes flowing. Others do it to give the illusion of growth to investors or to test internal salary benchmarks against external candidates. And some are just trying to look busy so they don't get their own budgets slashed. But here's the human cost. Millions of Americans are wasting time, energy, and emotional bandwidth applying to roles that never had a shot. Think about it. Each application takes hours when you tailor your resume, write a cover letter, research the company. You hit send, you wait. You check your inbox, and nothing. No rejection, no reply, no next step. Multiply that by 50 applications a week, and you've got a full-time job chasing shadows. It's not just demoralizing, it's dangerous. It leads workers to underestimate how tight the market actually is. It inflates the number of job openings in official statistics. And it gives politicians and economists cover to pretend things are better than they are. This isn't a glitch, it's a feature of the system now. In 2025, the job market isn't just competitive, it's a minefield of illusion. And for the average worker, the consequences are very real. Longer unemployment spells, lower confidence, and a growing sense that the system is rigged. 7. AI isn't just taking jobs, it's rewriting the rules of employment in real time. You've heard the warnings. AI is coming, but what's actually happening in 2025 is more unsettling than most people realize. It's not just about automation replacing warehouse jobs or customer service reps. It's about the ground rules of employment shifting under everyone's feet, executives included. In the last year, over 300,000 white-collar jobs in the U.S. were restructured, automated, or merged due to artificial intelligence tools, according to data from Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. Entire departments are being condensed into AI-augmented workflows. What does that mean? It means what used to take 10 analysts now takes 2 and a dashboard. Legal assistants, paralegals, finance associates, content writers, even entry-level coders. AI is moving up the ladder. And it's not just replacing, it's redefining. Roles are becoming blurrier, responsibilities are stretching, and performance metrics are getting tighter. Managers expect more output per hour because the tools help now. But they're not paying more. And if you don't master the latest AI suite fast enough, you're out. This isn't the slow march of automation we saw in factories over decades. This is real-time restructuring happening quarter by quarter. And it's creating a new class of worker, the AI-dependent employee, stuck between being overworked and replaceable. The companies aren't broadcasting this, but internal surveys show it's already impacting morale. Burnout is rising. So is imposter syndrome. Because no one knows where the bottom is. And worse, no one knows if the skills they're building today will even matter in a year. This is not just a tech trend, it's an economic fault line, and it's moving faster than the labor market can adjust. 6. The real divide isn't education or race anymore. It's geography. There's a lie we keep telling ourselves in America, that the job market is one big unified field, and everyone just needs to move or reskill or work harder to make it. But in 2025, the real divide in the job market isn't based on education, race, or even industry, it's location. Geography has become economic destiny. Right now, if you live in one of the top 25 metro areas, Austin, Raleigh, Denver, Seattle, you still have access to a job market with churn, investment, and innovation. But if you live outside that bubble, you're playing a different game entirely. According to Brookings, 78% of all net new job growth in the past 18 months came from just 15 cities. That means thousands of other towns, suburbs, and exurbs are stagnating or shrinking. Not because people there lack skills, not because they're unwilling to work, but because investment has vanished. The remote work revolution was supposed to level the playing field. But instead, many companies are pulling talent back to HQ or prioritizing urban centers with tax incentives. So if you're in rural Ohio, or post-industrial Pennsylvania, or the outer edges of Florida, you're stuck watching job growth happen on the other side of the country. This isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. Because it means that economic opportunity in America is becoming a postcode lottery. Your zip code matters more than your resume. And once that kind of regional inequality sets in, it doesn't just reverse, it deepens. And the political, social, and emotional consequences are profound. People in hollowed-out towns aren't just unemployed, they're angry, they're disillusioned, and they're watching a version of the American dream that simply doesn't include their community anymore. This isn't a labor market issue, it's a national cohesion issue, and no one in Washington is ready to talk about that. 5. Behind every layoff, there's a stock buyback. Here's something you'll never hear on CNBC. The biggest driver of job cuts in America right now isn't declining demand, isn't automation, and it isn't even rising interest rates. It's shareholder satisfaction. Plain and simple. In 2025, more than $1.2 trillion in stock buybacks are projected across S&P 500 companies, an all-time record. That's not a typo. It's a trillion-dollar wave of financial engineering. And what fuels those buybacks? Cost-cutting, layoffs, hiring freezes, office closures, quiet restructuring. The American worker has become a line item to optimize, not an asset to invest in. Just look at what happened in Q2 alone. More than 270 publicly traded companies announced job reductions in the same quarter they ramped up buybacks. Some of the biggest names in tech, pharma, logistics, and media all did it. Workforce realignment was the phrase they used. Meanwhile, their EPS, earnings per share, magically improved because with fewer shares in circulation and less payroll burden, the numbers look better. This isn't speculation. These are decisions being made in boardrooms where labor is viewed as a cost center, not a growth driver. And for all the talk about returning value to shareholders, it's everyday employees who are footing the bill through lost jobs, stagnant wages, and declining morale. Worse still, many of these companies accepted pandemic-era stimulus or tax breaks designed to preserve jobs. Now, they're using that runway to shrink payrolls and boost stock prices instead. This isn't capitalism at work, it's cannibalism. We are eating our own future to polish quarterly reports. And the labor market? It's bleeding quietly while Wall Street claps from the sidelines. If you want to understand why the job market feels like it's thinning even while profits rise, just follow the money. You'll find your answer buried in buybacks. 4. Unemployment is understated and severely underreported. Every month, the government tells you the same story. Unemployment is low, hovering around 4.4%. But that number? It's not just misleading, it's a complete distortion of reality. Because here's the truth. Millions of Americans have disappeared from the labor force entirely, and they're not being counted. In fact, labor force participation among prime-age men, 25 to 54 years old, is at one of its lowest levels since the 1950s. Read that again. The 1950s. As of fall 2025, more than 7.2 million working-age Americans are neither employed nor actively looking for work. Why? Because the system doesn't consider you unemployed unless you're actively searching. If you gave up, you're invisible. If you're taking care of an elderly parent, managing a chronic illness, burned out from the job hunt, or just waiting for better conditions, you're statistically irrelevant. The result? A deeply sanitized picture of the job market. The official numbers leave out the discouraged, the underemployed, the gig workers scraping by, the people juggling 3 part-time jobs but still living paycheck to paycheck. Add them back in, and the true underutilization rate balloons. Some estimates suggest real economic unemployment in 2025 is closer to 9.6%, nearly triple the reported rate, and that has massive implications. Because when policymakers base interest rates, stimulus, or benefits on the headline number, they're operating on a fantasy. They're tightening the screws while half the country is already slipping. This isn't just a statistical oversight. It's policy malpractice, and it's leaving millions behind in plain sight. The next time someone tells you unemployment is low, ask them what that number really includes. You might be shocked how much of America it excludes. 3. Job training programs are booming, but they're failing miserably. Every time the labor market stalls, the same solution gets trotted out: retrain, reskill, upskill. And in 2025, job training programs are being promoted like miracle cures. Federal investment in workforce development just crossed $13 billion, with new AI learning platforms, tech boot camps, and career certification grants rolling out across the country. Sounds good, right? Except here's the twist. Most of it isn't working. According to a massive longitudinal study released this year by Rand Corporation, only 29% of job training participants found stable employment in their new field within 18 months of completing their program. The rest? Either dropped out, returned to their original industries, or were unable to secure jobs in saturated growth sectors. And those who did find work? Many were underpaid compared to their previous jobs. Why? Because the gap isn't just skills. It's geography. It's networks. It's employer preferences. It's the sheer volume of candidates flooding the same retraining pipelines. When 10,000 people take the same cloud computing course, but only 1,000 jobs are open, guess what happens? Certificates turn into wallpaper, credentials get devalued, and workers feel duped. The truth is, we've placed the burden of economic transition entirely on individuals. We tell laid-off truck drivers to learn Python. We expect retail clerks to become cybersecurity analysts overnight. And we offer them online courses instead of actual career ladders. Job training has become the new thoughts and prayers of the labor market, a way to look busy while avoiding structural reform. It's not that training doesn't matter, it does. But without real job creation, real regional investment, and real employer accountability, it's just a treadmill to nowhere. And in 2025, millions of Americans are running hard and getting absolutely nowhere. 2. The gig economy isn't a side hustle anymore, it's a survival strategy. Once upon a time, the gig economy was marketed as freedom. Choose your hours, be your own boss, drive when you want, deliver when you want. But by 2025, that illusion has shattered. For millions of Americans, gig work is no longer a side hustle, it's the only hustle they've got. Right now, over 33% of the U.S. workforce engages in some form of freelance, contract, or platform-based labor, according to Pew Research. And here's the part no one wants to talk about. Most of them don't want to. They're not doing it for flexibility. They're doing it because traditional employment options have dried up. Because their full-time jobs were outsourced or cut. Because daycare is too expensive to work 9 to 5. Because rent went up and tips went down. The gig economy has quietly become America's emergency exit. But it's an exit into chaos. There's no health insurance, no paid time off, no minimum wage. Platforms like Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, and Amazon Flex control the algorithms, the rates, the schedules, and workers have almost zero recourse. What you earn this week might not cover what you need next week. And with gas, insurance, and vehicle maintenance soaring in 2025, many gig workers are earning less than $12 an hour after expenses. That's not flexibility. That's exploitation in a shiny app. And it's distorting the job numbers too. Because every gig worker is technically employed. But are they stable? Secure? Able to build a life? Not even close. This isn't just a shift in work. It's a collapse of labor standards disguised as innovation. And if it continues unchecked, the gig economy won't just be a symptom of labor market decline. It'll be the blueprint. 1. The real crisis. Americans are losing faith in work itself. Let's end with the most uncomfortable truth of all. The labor market's biggest challenge isn't layoffs or AI or even wages. It's belief. In 2025, a growing number of Americans are quietly, steadily, losing faith in the very idea that work leads to stability, dignity, or a better future. And that is the most dangerous development of all. Surveys from Gallup, Deloitte, and McKinsey all show the same trend: declining trust in employers, falling engagement, and rising disillusionment across every generation. But it's sharpest among younger workers. Only 26% of Gen Z employees say they feel optimistic about their career path, the lowest on record. And you can't blame them. They watched their parents get laid off in the 2008 crash. They graduated into the pandemic recession. They took jobs during a wage crisis. They entered adulthood during the AI upheaval. And now, in 2025, they're told to be grateful for part-time, burnout-prone hybrid gig roles that barely cover rent. It's not laziness. It's learned cynicism. And it's spreading. Older workers are seeing it too. The pension promises broken, the healthcare costs exploding, the ladder pulled up. This is more than a job market shift. It's an existential rupture. Because if Americans no longer believe that hard work leads to a better life, the entire social contract breaks down. Civic engagement falls, family formation drops, innovation slows, polarization rises. This is what economists miss when they obsess over spreadsheets. They're watching indicators. But the average American is watching their sense of purpose decay. And once that happens, rebuilding it takes more than jobs. It takes trust. And right now, that trust is vanishing, one unpaid overtime hour at a time. So now you see it? The job market isn't strong, it's stretched. It's not recovering, it's rearranging. And millions of Americans are being left behind in real time, while the headlines keep spinning fairy tales. If work feels harder now, it's because it is. If finding a job feels slower, colder, more punishing than it used to be, it's not in your head. It's by design. We are living through a transformation that no one voted for, driven by automation, shareholder pressure, and short-term thinking. A system that rewards cuts, not contributions. Silence, not stability. And if you felt stuck, exhausted, or like the rules of work keep changing just as you figure them out, you're not alone. This is happening everywhere. In every city, every income level, every industry. The job market didn't collapse, it shifted, and the people who don't see it yet, they're the ones most likely to fall next. So pay attention, not to the spin, but to the signs, the freeze in hiring, the ghost jobs, the quiet layoffs, the cities pulling ahead while towns fall behind. And if this breakdown helped you see through the noise, subscribe, because what's coming next won't be about getting back to normal, it'll be about surviving the new one.